Lawrence, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about Thursday Night Football, which is a game that ended up being, I think, a little bit more interesting than people thought, and mainly because the Dallas Cowboys were so underwhelming.
Yeah, and, expect on the other side of the ball, too, of the offense for the Titans, Josh Dobbs at quarterback throwing the ball a lot more than we thought we would see, seeing as how they treated, Malik Willis when he was in the game at quarterback. But yeah, man, Titans stuck around. They played tight run defense. They disrupted the Cowboys offense in their running game. So it ended up being something that we really didn't expect.
Yep. Well, the big winners last night were the bettors at BetMGM.
Yes, sir.
All of the most bet props, they came home. Ezekiel Elliott, first touchdown scorer, anytime touchdown scorer. CeeDee Lamb goes comfortably over with how close the game was, with Dallas throwing the ball more than expected. My best bet was Dak Prescott over 1.5 touchdowns. He was able to get that done. Matthew's best bet, Michael Gallup, over 2.5 receptions. That comes home. Lawrence, you didn't have a best bet, but if you did, I'm sure it would have won as well.
I just would have bet the Zeke touchdown. I mean, he made it 9 games in a row that he done scored a touchdown. So from this point, even if he got those little 37 yards that he got, it's going to come with a touchdown. So we be good with that.
Yeah, and Zeke, I mean, he was a story in a way last night just because he didn't really have the game that we were all expecting, which meant that Dak Prescott had to throw the ball a ton. Yeah. But if you look at the running backs yesterday, Ezekiel Elliott, he does get 66% of the offensive snaps. Malik Davis was playing early downs, then it was all Zeke. He does have 19 rush attempts, but the thing is with the Tennessee Titans defense, doesn't matter if they're down half their defensive starters, that rushing defense still elite, even without Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah. Zeke had his lowest yards per game, his lowest yards per carry in the game this season. Malik Davis ended up, rushing for more yards per carry. He did have a long run in there that kind of helped that. But from a fantasy perspective, you kind of hope that Zeke could have got a couple of those catches, man.
Yeah. 100%. I'm very glad that we're leaving this game behind because I just cannot stomach anymore trying to say Malik Davis and saying Malik Willis just over and over again. I think everyone across America has struggled with that in the past 24 hours. But let's talk about Dak Prescott, who also struggled last night. Weird game from Dak after he throws the pick 6 against the Eagles last week, but otherwise has an awesome game. Last night was very uneven. He has the 3 turnovers. Throws a couple of picks and then has
this one here, Peyton Hendershot, just catch the ball, man. Like, now they're going to talk about Dak because of this one. Like, come on, just catch that ball. Kevin Byard right there to make the good play. Now, this one right here, ooh, man.
That was the bad one.
Yeah, that's the one we don't want, Dak. And that's what you just mentioned, Jay, the up and down right there. That's part of the down. He loses the snap here. I don't even know if he ever really got this, Jay. Like, you see it right there.
I don't think that's on Dak.
Yeah, it hit the center right in his butt right there. And then it's but on the paper, it's gonna go to the quarterback, So, just on the stat sheet, fantasy wise, at the end of the day, that's minus 6 points for Dak Prescott.
Yep. I think you come out of that game still feeling fine about the Dallas passing offense. Dak is still, it's not as relevant now, but he's an every week fantasy starter. And CeeDee Lamb was the big beneficiary last night. I mean, he just continues to establish himself in that same tier now as your Justin Jeffersons, your Tyreek Hills. He's that kind of player.
Yeah, and he's doing it. It says it in the numbers, 20 points per game fantasy-wise since week 12. 3 straight games with 100 receiving yards, and he's got a 33% target share over the last 2 weeks. So it's no question, like, this guy's top 5. It's like no matter the situation, no matter what's going on with, Dak or the offense, you set him in there like a Tyreek Hill. You set him in there and feel good about it, even without a touchdown.
Yep, and I think the key thing now with CeeDee Lamb is it's mainly what we saw last week against the Eagles, where he's doing the thing that, the Rams do with Kupp, the Vikings do with Jefferson, where it's moving him around the formation. As soon as Avonte Maddox went out for the Eagles, CeeDee Lamb, you're going in the slot, and you're just going to do whatever you want out of there. So, look, he will be a top 5, top 6 wide receiver drafted next season.
Easily.
And on the tight end front, somebody might be in that same kind of rankings range for his position is the great Dalton Schultz, who could never really kind of make music with Cooper Rush. But now that Dak Prescott's back, this guy just keeps performing. Yeah,
Dalton Schultz, and, prayers out to anybody who's starting a fantasy championship going against Dalton Schultz. You're going to feel like how, people felt when they went against T.J. Hawkinson, right? He's one of 5 tight ends this season to have a 7-catch, 50-yard, 2-touchdown games, double-digit targets in 2 of the last 4 games. So him and Dak got that chemistry going there. So, this is what we saw a lot out of Dalton Schultz last season, and now it's coming at the right time, the fantasy playoffs, and more importantly, the real playoffs for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep, and let's talk about the Tennessee Titans now, who have a playoff game next week, effectively against the Jacksonville Jaguars to decide the AFC South. The Jags are 6-point favorites, and it looks like Josh Dobbs is probably going to be starting at quarterback, and he really was the story last night. And look, I think people need to settle down a little bit with Josh Dobbs. Like, he wasn't out there he wasn't Patrick Mahomes or anything, but he did give them an element in the passing game that Malik Willis really hasn't been giving them.
Yeah, and it's wow. My head's still spinning about this, but you see there, 20 of 39, 232. That's a nice throw right there to the sidelines. Only where the receiver could get it right there. Good grab by Robert Woods. But this is Josh Dobbs, 6th year in the league, right? He gets his first start. Now, even though this is his first start, he's been in quarterback rooms, for the Steelers, the Browns. He's been around, so he finally got his shot. And like you say, we need to chill out thinking like, oh, man, we got the quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like, Malik Willis, let me make sure I get the right guy this time. Malik Willis will get a shot at some point down the line, but maybe, for next week's game versus the Jaguars, they'll want a little more of that passing element, something just to take some type of pressure off of King Henry when he come back. And Josh Dobbs, it looked like he may be able to help do that.
Yeah, I think the thing with Dobbs is that, one, I just think that the uptick to competence in the passing game, that was noticeable. But at the same time, he threw a pick 6 to Trayvon Diggs. The Trayvon Diggs dropped. Yeah. He threw a pass into the end zone between about 25 Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. So I'm not sure how that pass to Treylon Burks didn't end up worse. And then he does throw a pick as well. But the thing is for next week is that, last night he didn't have Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry, to me, it's weird because they're completely different body types and players, but to me, Derrick Henry has an air of Steph Curry about him, where it's not so much about what he does, it's about the gravity. Yeah. Because Stephen Curry, when he's on the court, it's not so much that he's the greatest shooter ever and can put up 30, it's that everyone is aware of where he is at every time. And with Derrick Henry, it's the same thing, where he makes Ryan Tannehill's life so much easier because the box is stacked, because you have to stack the box against King Henry. Yeah. And I think it's going to be the same thing for Josh Dobbs, who will now have another week, an extended week with the playbook, with the team, and then he also gets back the King to make his life easier.
Indeed.
Let's quickly talk about Henry's backup, Hassan Haskins, who I think did basically what everyone basically expected out of him, where didn't have the massive game. He has, in the end, 12 carries for 40 yards, 2 catches for 13 yards in the air.
Yeah, even when it was announced that Derrick Henry was going to be missing the game, I bumped Hassan Haskins up from 70 to 45. You know what I'm saying? And that's saying something when he's going to get the lion's share of the workload there. And he, like you said, he did what they expected him to do, caught a couple of passes out of the backfield, wasn't able to really get anything going. Now, these types of players, when these backups come in, all it takes is one play for everybody to go nuts. If this dude makes one 67-yard run, and does nothing for the rest of the game, it wouldn't have mattered. It'd have been like, but that didn't happen. What happened was what we expected to happen. And like you said, next week, when they get King Henry back, that'll help out Josh Dobbs and obviously the offense more.
Yep. Titans going to beat the Jags next week. They're 6-point underdogs in Jacksonville. You got to lean on that game now?
I'm going to say, I'm going to say, yeah.
Yeah? All right. Yeah. Titans win straight up, plus 200 on the money line. I think they will cover.
That ain't what I want, though.
Yeah. You're a Jags man now?
I want to see Trevor Lawrence get up in that thing, man. Yeah. I want to see him go into them playoffs.
I kind of want to see Josh Dobbs in the playoff.
I want to see King Henry in the playoffs because nobody could tackle him in the playoffs. If you do, you win the game.
Yeah, you're doing it right. Friend of the show, Josh Dobbs. He hasn't actually been on the show yet, but he is a friend of the show.
Come on the show, dog.
Yeah,
come on the show.
Come on. All right, let's go to some Roto World headlines before we head to break. And look, the key one here is Jalen Hurts, who is dealing with his shoulder injury. He was at practice yesterday. I don't think he did a ton in practice, but he was there. Nick Sirianni saying that Hurts threw well. They're still sorting out the QB situation. Right now the line is 6.5 at BetMGM. The Eagles favored over the New Orleans Saints. So I still think the market expects that it will be Gardner Minshew. But what do you make of this situation, Lawrence?
Yeah, based on the spread you just said there, and it should be that type of number, anyway, no matter who's at the quarterback position. But, this what coaches do in the league when you got a, injured or semi-injured player. You play that game throughout the week. You let these teams scout both players. You let them use that extra time and resources to be like, hey, we going to be playing against Gardner Minshew or are we going to be playing against Jalen Hurts? We can't really say that. We'd be shocked if it ended up either way. Because while, they still have to clinch that number one spot, right? And any NFL team would rather do that sooner rather than later. So, maybe it's a shot. We just truly don't know. But I think it's Friday. We should be finding out real soon.
Yeah, I would still expect that it is going to be Gardner Minshew. And the reason is just that, yes, the Eagles, they do want to clinch as soon as possible, but they can clinch next week home to the New York Giants. And the Giants will clinch a playoff spot if they win as 6-point favorites over the Colts.
Yeah.
So you expect that they'll do that. And then the Eagles playing against potentially the Giants' backups in Week 18, they're going to be like 14.5-point favorites in that game if they do need to win it, and Hurts has to play it. So I know that they want to beat New Orleans because they've got New Orleans' pick, and that's an element, but I think you're more worried about winning the Super Bowl this year
100%.
with your superstar quarterback.
They won't put Jalen Hurts out there if there's any chance, it's not – if there's a big risk there. If he does play, though, his last game versus the Saints, he had 30.8 fantasy points, 69 rushing yards, and 3 touchdowns in that game. New Orleans ranks 27th in rush defense since Week 13, so somebody going to get loose against the New Orleans Saints, whether it be Jalen Hurts, well, not Gardner Minshew in the run game, but somebody going to do their thing.
Yeah, and I think fantasy-wise, it doesn't really matter outside of obviously starting or sitting Hurts, depending on whether he's playing, because we saw what Devontae Smith could do with Gardner Minshew. He has the best game of his career against the Cowboys. Obviously, you're starting A.J. Brown. Dallas got it as well. So I think it's more of a football story. And I kind of like the Saints in this game because the other, I think, key news in that game is that Cris Olave practiced the past couple of days.
They need him.
It looks like he's going to come back. Cris Olave is the most important skill position player for the Saints. It's not Alvin Kamara, it's Cris Olave, what he gives to that offense, how much easier he makes Andy Dalton's life. So kind of like the Saints plus 6.5.
The Saints would agree with you the way they use Alvin Kamara. They would agree with you.
It's the Cris Olave show. 30-1 on BetMGM to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Wouldn't count him out yet. All right, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to break down some games in the AFC with playoff motivation.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.